Specifically Deadwood and Justified. And I've seen a lot of your writing about Deadwood, so I wanted to ask about Justified and that experience and how was it? Because I love that show.
Do you now? Well, that's great crack. That's just between me and her. That's an Irish thing. But I forgot the question.
Let's talk about Justified.
Pardon?
Justified?
That's not a question, that's a word.
Yeah. Could you speak about your experience?
Could I speak about my experience on Justified? Justified was a lot of fun. I didn't expect it to be a lot of fun. They asked me to do a couple of episodes. I did one. And then I couldn't do any more because I was so deep into, I don't know, season 6, I think, of Supernatural. And so I thought, well, okay, I did one episode, and that was nice, but it was not very, I didn't feel like I was contributing to the show much. But then they managed to squeeze me into 4 or 5 episodes the next season, which was still a lot of fun because I love acting, but it was still a conflict with Supernatural, and there was a lot of back and forth. Okay, when can I be where? And I thought they're not going to put up with this for long because it's a strain on a show to know that some other show has first claim on you. And then the other show, Supernatural, decided they didn't want first claim on me anymore because I was dead. But what that did was open up the next season of Justified for me. And I got to do a lot of episodes, and it was wonderful fun because I never had a clue going in that character was going to be anything other than just some guy. And it turned out to be the pivotal character of season 4 of Justified. And I was working with cool people like Timothy Oliphant, who I'd worked with on Deadwood, and Patton Oswalt. I mean, it was so cool. And to be, I don't want to give it away for anybody who hasn't seen Justified, but it's a really important part in season 4. So, yeah, it was great fun, and it's great writing. And when you're doing a show with great writing, and the people are great, and it's fun, beats working.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, love. Hi.
Hi. I absolutely loved Crimson Peak. I saw it like 3 times in the movie theater. And you were the reason I went to see it, you and Tom Hiddleston, but mainly you.
There's always a qualifier.
So what was it like working on that film and with those actors and Guillermo del Toro and all that?
That was an amazing experience on Crimson Peak. First off, I have no idea what they spend per episode on Supernatural. It's probably around a couple of $1 million, I don't know. Crimson Peak was like 55 million, and it showed. Those of you who've seen it know that you probably saw some of the best production design, set design, and costumes in the history of movies. How they weren't nominated and didn't win Oscars, I have no idea, because that was the greatest set I've ever seen. And then you've got a genius running the show, Guillermo del Toro. And I'm still in wonder because he just called up and asked me if I wanted to do it. And I was like, how does he know who I am? And then when he told me that he wrote the part for me, I was like, how does he know who I am? Maybe his kid went to school with my kid or something. I don't know. It turned out he was a Deadwood fan. I figured it would have been Supernatural. But knowing how he loves the Supernatural and all that, but he said it was something about the character I played in Deadwood that made him think I would be good. It was an amazing experience. I really, really loved the 4 great actors I got to work with: Tom Hiddleston, Jessica Chastain, Mia Wasikowska, and Charlie Hunnam, some of whom you may have heard of. It was great. They treated me like a king, and very sweet people from the very top all the way to the bottom of the crew list. It was great. It was cold. It was Toronto in February, but like I said before, it beats working. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello. So Alexis kind of nabbed my question on Crimson Peak there, so I just wanted to ask you to elaborate more. I know they built the entire house as a walk-in set, and I was just wondering if all the sets from the film were just as elaborate as that house was.
Well, those of you who've seen the film know exactly what house she's talking about. That house was indeed built from the ground up on a soundstage. And it was not only, usually, for example, if you think back to one or two episodes where you saw the upstairs of Bobby's house, it wasn't even on the same stage as the rest of the house. They build things where they're convenient to build them. And somebody walks in a door, hello. And 2 days later, they come in that same door in another building because they shoot for convenience. In this particular case, they built this mansion, this decaying Gothic mansion on a set, and you could go up the stairs and left and go into the rooms that were down the hall to the left, and go to the right and go into the rooms, and all the rooms were where they were supposed to be, and the elevator really worked. And it was a gigantic house on a soundstage. Most of the other sets were standing sets in and around Toronto. The big ballroom scene took place in a mansion that's now kind of a museum. My character's house was a real house in Hamilton, Ontario. But the big house that is the center of the story was from the floor up, and it was gorgeous.
Wow.
So, I hope that helped.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi.
Hi. I was wondering, when you first read the script for Supernatural and you heard that you had to say idiots, what was your first opinion, and did you ever think it would be so iconic?
I don't remember the first episode I said idiots in. It wasn't right at the beginning. It may have even been as late as the third season. I can't remember, but I saw it in the script, and I said, are they kidding? Who says idiots? What, are they trying to make this guy a moron? And I actually went to the director and I said, idiots? That's what, and he said, yeah, just say it. And I said, okay, well, that's what you're paying me for. So I said idiots, and I thought, God, I hope they don't make me say that again. And now I have shirts with it on it, so, and so do you. So I guess it just shows what idiots we are. Yeah, I had exactly the same experience when I first saw the script that asked me to say balls. Really? My mother might watch this show. But I said it, and now some of you have shirts with that on it. So, yeah, that was my response. Shows what I know.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi.
Hello. I wanted to ask another question about Crimson Peak, but I don't want to spoil the movie for anyone who hasn't seen it. So how long did it take to do the sink scene?
The sink scene was the first real scene I shot in the movie. And it took 3 days. And it was, well, it's really the bathroom scene, because it takes place in a very wealthy men's club steam room bath complex. And they built that on a soundstage. It was real marble floors, real marble walls, real steam. It was really hot, and it was wet. It was, except for the fact that 5 feet away was a bunch of lumber stacked and grips and butt cracks. You'd have thought it was the real thing. And it was a difficult scene to shoot physically, partly because of the temperature, because they had to keep the steam going, and partly for reasons you probably understand. But yeah, it was the first 3 days of the shoot, and it was really strange because I would shoot in there for a while, and my beard and mustache would get so wet from the steam, and then they would say, okay, you got a break, and I would go out to my trailer and walk out the door, my whole face would freeze because it was the middle of January in Toronto. And I would go back to my trailer and sit there and wait for the ice to melt. And then they would say, okay, you're back on, and I would go back and reverse the process. So it's a weird business. But that was a tough scene, but it was the first 3 days I shot.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi.
Hello.
Oh, another interloper.
Yes. Quick question. How was it as a performer to film Bobby's death scene knowing that fundamentally Sam and Dean were losing another father figure in their life?
Who cares about them? I was the job, man. Well, you have to understand, and those of you who've attended these things before have heard most of my stories, but if you think about the fact that Bobby was in a hospital bed and Jared was standing at the end of the hospital bed, you can perhaps imagine that it took a great deal of concentration to get through the scene, because Jared apparently has a foot fetish. And every time Bobby's ever been in a coma or stuck in some weird dream or passed out on a bed or something like that, there will be a moment when Jared is going while the camera's on me. And so when you think about that poignant moment, when Bobby says, that's what was happening. I look at that scene and I think I may just be the greatest actor in the world. As to the storyline feeling, it was, what I really hated about Bobby getting killed off was the fact that dramatically it was a pretty strong choice to make, because it just ripped away from the boys the last vestige of resources. And dramatically it's always great to have your protagonists run up against obstacles and see how they get around them. And I hate it when they make smart moves like that, because I usually end up dead. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi. So I just wanted to ask about your experiences on Dexter and how you like that. I really love your character on Dexter, by the way.
He's so lovable.
He is so terrible. It was awesome.
It was one of the sweeter fellows I've played in a while. Hello. Have you heard anything I've said today? Okay, good. Dexter was great because it was a real change of pace. I had been developing completely unintentionally for about 10 or 12 years this niche as gruff but lovable. And this Dexter role came along, and I got to leave the lovable part at home. Unfortunately for all of you, actually fortunately for all of you, I was the first Dexter victim ever to get wrapped in cellophane with his clothes on. So I spared you that indignity. It was fun to shoot. It was some of the final sequence was kind of tough because I was only in the cellophane for about 5 hours. My friend John Lithgow was naked in the cellophane in his episode for something like 11 hours. They fixed it so you can stand up and walk a little bit if you maybe have to go potty. But you know, if they were to decide to go to lunch without you, it would be real easy to do. So, but it was fun, and I got to be nasty, and I love playing nasty.
All right,
Thank you.
Hi,
I just wanted to say that you look a lot like my grandfather.
I look like your grandfather?
He passed away 6 years ago today.
Oh, I'm sorry, darling. You got a question?
Yeah, what was your favorite episode to play in?
I'm going to go back up here, but my favorite episode to play in. Oh, come on, it's Weekend at Bobby's. Weekend at Bobby's was so much fun because Jensen was directing it, which was a lot of fun too. It meant that I didn't have to act with either of them very much. And that made life easier. It wore me out. It gave me a real appreciation of how hard they work every episode, 22, 23, 24 episodes a season. I only had to carry that one episode, and they're heavy. You work from dawn till midnight, and there's very little rest and very little time between midnight and dawn. And I was really tired by the time it was over, but it was so much fun. It was so much fun to shoot, and it was great too because there was dramatic stuff and there was comedy stuff, and I got to work with Kim Rhodes again, who's always a hoot and a sweetheart. And I discovered the joys of working with Stephen Williams as Rufus. It was all around a great experience. So thank you for asking.
Thank you so much.
Much love to you, darling. Hi.
Hello, handsome. No, I'm talking to you.
You're young for losing your eyesight.
First and foremost, I'm glad you brought up Weekend at Bobby's because I really do love that episode. I tried to watch it this morning because I knew you were coming, but unfortunately our TV didn't work, so I was totally disappointed to miss out on rewatching that amazing episode.
I think I have it on my phone here.
And my question is, how do you balance being a working single dad and raising such an amazing daughter like Maddie?
I probably do a terrible job of it. That's probably how I balance. But my amazing daughter Maddie is here. Where are you? Stand up and say hi. She would depend on any given day. She would tell you that I'm the most amazing father ever born, or that I'm a cretin. Just depends on the day. Most of the time she seems to like me, so I guess I'm doing all right. Balancing it is interesting because so much of my work depends on travel, because Supernatural shoots in Vancouver, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul shoot in Albuquerque. Gay for sand. I'm sure there's something else there too, but
Cactus.
cactus, yeah, and meth. But anyway, because there's so much travel, she sacrifices a lot by my not always being around. But when I am around, I make up for it by making her life miserable. And she's, I don't know, she's a pretty cool kid. I like her. Now, I'm not saying I might not make a deal with somebody out there. She's 14 after all. But balancing it, I don't know, you just do what you have to do. And for years, it was not a big problem because she couldn't get out of the garage. She was at that perfect age where she couldn't operate the garage door opener, but she could work the can opener. So, I just go up to Vancouver for 2 or 3 weeks, come back, She seemed fine. She was pretty sick of tuna by then, but no, you do what you have to. Any parents out there? And you know what I'm talking about. Any children out there? Who said no? Well, then you know what I'm talking about too. It's a constant struggle to figure out the right thing to do and balance that between the fun and happy thing to do. But I do what I can. And in another couple of years, she's going to put me in a home anyway, and it won't matter.
Well, thank you. The fact that you've introduced her to the Beatles, I think, is saying you're doing a pretty damn good job.
Well, my kid was born in 2001, and she loves the Beatles and Tommy James and the Shondells and Buster Keaton and Laurel and Hardy. If nothing else, I've succeeded culturally. Thank you. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
I was wondering between Kim Rhodes and Mark Shepard who a better kisser was.
What took you so long? Somebody's going to come up to my casket at my funeral and go, "Who was the better kisser?" Just whisper it. Let me see. How far is it from here to Alpha Centauri? That's about how far better Kim Rhodes was. Kim Rhodes is a woman of style and taste. She's a woman devoid of facial stubble. She's a class act. She's a really good kisser. Really. And None of that applies to Mark Shepard. He would like you to think it did. He is lying. I think he got way more fun out of it than I did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi. You recently were on the second season of New Adventures of Peter and Wendy as Mr. Darling. And I wanted to ask you about the differences between shooting a big TV show like Supernatural and then doing something as small as a web series. And what did you like about it?
Well, on Supernatural, I had a dressing room. My friend Paula Rhodes produced this web series, The New Adventures of Peter and Wendy, and she plays Wendy. And we're old friends. She asked me to do it. And so I showed up one day in the closet where they were shooting, and we did it. These days, everybody who has any desire to make art, to create something, has much more potential to succeed, simply because so many of the elements of filmmaking in particular have gotten cheaper. You can shoot a really good movie on your phone if you play it right. And so this show came along at a time when it was really possible to shoot a little TV series for the internet for comparatively little money. And I don't know that I would have done it had I not been close friends with Paula Rhodes, but because of, mainly it's the kind of thing your friend calls up and says, hey, would you do this with us? And you go, sure, for you, anything. And then there's those friends you go, I think I'm having a tooth extracted that week. It's small scale. It is small scale. It's like putting on a skit in your living room. Except there's a whole lot of other people in there basically holding flashlights on you so people can see you. But it was fun. I did everything I did on the entire season in one day. So, and I think I'm in like 4 or 5 episodes. So, yeah, did it all in one day. Didn't have a clue what I was talking about. But I shouldn't say this. No. We might have gotten done a little faster, except the director would kind of give me these rudimentary instructions on how to act. And not in a bad way, but he would say, okay, now, these are your sons, and they are giving you a lot of trouble, and you're really unhappy about that, and it frustrates you. And I said, I read the script. And he said, okay. So, but a lot of the people who worked on that show were, very early in their careers, and I understood, and it was a lot of fun. So, I think they're hoping to do the 3rd season very soon. So
They're collecting money right now. They have an Indiegogo page.
And it just got the Emmys have just opened up a new category for web content, and Forbes magazine mentioned our show as a prime example of what's possible. So it's a fun show. Look it up on the internet. I'm in it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi. Just real quick, I wanted to thank you so much for letting Maddie be in our photo op because we just adore her. And then I wanted to ask you, obviously Supernatural is your very favorite set you've ever been on, but what would be the closest second?
Well, I made a funny face, but the truth is there's just about no other set I would rather be on in terms of what it's like to be there. The cast and crew of Supernatural are so much fun to be around. On a lot of shows, when you get toward the end of the season, everybody's exhausted. They've worked months without very much rest, and everybody's tired and irritable, and you start seeing the seams cracking in relationships, and it doesn't happen on Supernatural. I suppose it happens once or twice or something, but the fact is, 11th season, and everybody, as far as I can tell, still pretty much loves everybody, and I certainly love them. So it's an amazing place to be. The closest experience I've had has been Deadwood. Deadwood was different because there were so many regulars and there were so many storylines that whole seasons would go by without working with half the other actors. There are some people who were on that show with me, they were regulars with me on that show for 3 years, and I never had a scene with them. And the crew would change a lot from year to year, so you didn't have the consistency that Supernatural has, and that makes a big difference. If you know going to work that you're going to be with people you love and respect, it just makes the work so much better, so much more fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Hi. Or was that a number? Oh, you have 5 fingers. Congratulations. Hi.
Hi. So my question
It's
is...
so weird. You're talking there, but I hear you here. It's at the
If you look up
speakers.
here, your lips are moving, but the sound is different, so it's probably the same experience.
Except different.
So my question is, I know Bobby goes to heaven, he has his private heaven, but then he leaves to come to the rescue. When he goes back, do you think he goes to the same heaven, or would you construct a different heaven for him?
Well, the heaven they constructed for Bobby, sitting there with his feet up, listening to Kenny Rogers reading about Tori Spelling. I'd almost just as soon listen to Tori Spelling and read about Kenny Rogers. It struck me as not my idea of what Bobby's heaven would be like. There was no hot tub. And there was nobody in the hot tub that wasn't there. So they didn't consult me on how to design Bobby's heaven. If they had, now that would be heaven. It always seemed to me that Bobby was not the sort to be content with kicking back. I think he would have to create adventures for himself even in heaven. Because even heaven is full of idiots. And some of them need to be slapped upside the head. And I think he's just the spirit to do it. So, I don't know exactly what it would look like, but just reading about Tori Spelling would not be it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi. So,
I should talk faster because they're giving me the eye sign here.
if Bobby had the choice between heaven and earth with the boys, what would he end up choosing?
Oh, Bobby had a choice of staying in heaven or going back to earth with the boys. Back to earth, baby. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I haven't actually been to heaven yet, so I'm only imagining, but like I said, if it's sitting around with your feet up reading about Tori Spelling, I'd just soon be back on earth fighting evil. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi. My question was, Bobby, I don't know if you realize this, but Bobby's the only character other than the boys and Baby the car that has been in every single season.
Oh, I know. I keep telling Jeremy every time we get about halfway through the season. You know, Bobby's been in every single season of this show. Just saying.
And I was wondering what you thought of him becoming such a staple and how that kind of happened, because he is, you know, now we expect him to be in every season because he's been in every season so far.
Well, the truth is that the producers will decide whether to keep that up or not. I think they, you know, there's a sort of fan aspect even for them. They like certain ideas, and I think probably they'll try and keep it happening. But I hope they do. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I do hope they do.
My question was more of how did that kind of happen, that Bobby is always there?
I don't know. You'd have to ask the people who write this stuff. I haven't got a clue. They just call me and say, "You're back." So, okay. Thank you.
Let's do one more question.
Okay?
Hi there.
Hi.
So Kim and Brianna talked earlier about how Jared and Jensen pranked them quite frequently on set. And other than Jared playing with your feet, is there any good pranks that they played on you?
Well, pranks imply a kind of intellectual approach to humor with a certain intricacy and a certain savoir-faire. Standing behind the camera when you're doing your close-up and going, I don't really consider that a prank. It's more like daily life on that set. I'm not sure they've got what it takes for a real prank.
Ooh. Is it just me, or does that sound like a challenge? I feel like Jim Beaver just threw down the gauntlet. Be sure to, real quickly, right when Jim leaves stage, get your phones out and tweet Jared and Jensen that Jim has challenged them up their game. I foolishly thought they'd wait. They're doing it now, Jim. They're going ahead and tweeting that out.
The great thing about that is that Jared and Jensen, in order to fulfill that challenge, will have to put some pressure on the producers to bring me back up.
Oh, it's a win-win. Everybody wins. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Beaver. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Jim Beaver. That's great. Look out in my mind. Keep walking around. Yeah, he's Jim Beaver. The stage. Now he's signing the banner. He's challenging Jared to be a prankster. He challenged them to up their game. Now it's up to the boys to prank Jim Beaver. We're gonna see how it's gonna go. They're gonna prank Jim Beaver. They're gonna prank him into the story. They're gonna light him on fire. They're gonna roll it through. They're gonna do terrible things to Jim because he asked for it. Nobody's fault but Jim. He begged him to be mean and tough and hilarious all at once. What a prank is, and that's what he's gonna get with me on the show. Oh, everybody, Jim Beaver. There he goes. He's signing the air. Perfect, my hand's now worth more. Everybody, the band and I are signing off for the day. No! But that only means you're that much closer to karaoke, kids. We'll be back, we'll be on this stage. The band is gonna go get some rest, which means gamble all their paycheck away and drink themselves into oblivion. Woo! I know the code, you jerks. Me, I'll be back here with you doing a little karaoke tonight. I look forward to it. You better be here. Great day Friday, people. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to bring it out here because, you know, that's how I roll. But, I made the Thursday People shirts for the Thursday People. Handcrafted, but baked fresh in the oven, Thursday People shirts. Don't just so you know, Friday people, or you're kind of a hybrid at this point, but there are Friday people shirts too. You can still identify yourself. I didn't leave those home and just thinking about Thursday people. I will always love my Friday people. You will always be special to me. And you will always have a jersey waiting for you in the merch room if you so choose. Everybody, I will see you tonight.